Welcome to the Man That Can Project podcast. I'm your host, Lockie Stewart, and today I've got an incredible guest tuning us from New Zealand. So today we've got Scotty Martin, mate, and we crossed paths via social media. The power of social media, it's pretty cool with connecting people and getting to find out about people's stories. And obviously you're on a mission to inspire a lot of people, and you've had some, from my experience and how my life's been, some pretty hefty challenges that you've overcome, and I'm excited to learn more about those challenges and also how they've impacted you both positively and negatively. And I'm sure a lot of the lads and ladies that tune into this podcast are going to be, super inspired by your perspective in life, just because from what I see on social media, mate, you're a bloody go-getter, which is awesome. But guys, I'll give a quick rundown of Scotty before he does it better himself. But you're a young fella from New Zealand who's been on a bit of a roller coaster the last 8 years. Back in 2013, you were diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And I'm actually, what is Crohn's disease before I crack on with it?
Yeah, so it's pretty much like inflammation of your digestive tract.
Yeah, right. And does it stick with you for life or?
Yeah, there is no cure for it. So you kind of go in and out of remission, and some people are affected by it more than others, eh?
What's it like? Like, I need to know this because I could have jumped on Dr. Google, but I thought I'd just wait for you.
For me, I'm actually pretty lucky. I've got like a real kind of mild case of it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just basically your body kind of attacks itself, and you just end up with like sore guts all the time, or pretty much on the toilet and
Yep.
blood and all of that.
Yeah. All the fun stuff. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
But obviously from that, you started taking medication and started changing your diet to get the symptoms under control. And that took a huge toll on you mentally. And in 2016, so that's 3 years after that first diagnosis, you were diagnosed with anxiety and depression. And after seeking help, life started to improve for you, and you were cruising along nicely until 2017. Another hiccup popped up. You were diagnosed with, or you had a lump on your left testicle. And I was actually watching a video you did about this through Cancer Awareness Week for Monday when it was April. Was it April or whichever month it was?
Can't remember. Yeah, April, I think it was. Yeah.
And you're like, I had a nice little lump on my testicle, and I was hoping it would go away, but it didn't. So get it checked out, boys. I was like,
yeah, sure.
The way you said it, mate, it was like, obviously I was like, yeah, there's a fucking true message to this, but it was a good laugh as well because you put a bit of your own perspective into it. But mate, thanks for jumping on and obviously sharing a little bit about Crohn's. But mate, take us back. What was it like? I guess we'll dive into the heavy stuff. Obviously, off the back of Crohn's and getting on the medication and changing a few things up in your lifestyle, you were diagnosed with anxiety and depression. And what was that like for you? And what age were you at in 2016?
What age was I then? Man, I must have been about 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty hard time in life after being, diagnosed with Crohn's and trying to get through all of that and get my head around it. I think, yeah, it's something I kind of struggled with mentally. I wasn't really that accepting of having this whole Crohn's thing, and I didn't know anything about it either, so it was a big learning curve for me. I hadn't even heard of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where I started to go downhill mentally. Yeah, I was kind of hanging out with some people who I thought were kind of in the good crowd, and they probably weren't really. Yeah, looking back now, I don't have anything to do with those people, which is a good thing.
What was it about those people that probably didn't feel good for you?
I think it was like when I did get diagnosed with like anxiety and depression. Like they were really awesome to start with, really supportive, and then yeah, there was a group of about 4 who I used to hang out with, and then one of them kind of turned the whole group against me. And then there were a few things that happened between the group, and yeah, things just started going backwards, and they were actually quite nasty. Um, so yeah, that's when I really started to go backwards.
How'd that feel for you in that time, man? Because I know it's it's one probably sounds like you would have been fairly isolated or lonely, but then you've also just, you're coming off the back of just getting used to maybe the Crohn's diagnosis, but also diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and the people that are supposed to have your back. Essentially, the way I would think about it with my mates is supposed to have your back, and they're fucking causing chaos and turning on you.
Yeah, it was really hard, eh? I think I was dealing with so much at the time. I didn't need these people adding more on top. Yeah, so it was just the best thing to get away from them.
Yep.
I didn't really think so at the time because I guess I wasn't really in the right headspace, and I couldn't actually see what they were doing when I was feeling so down, because you kind of like you have no idea what you're doing at all, and it's a struggle to get up each day and just try and continue on with life. And then you have all these people making these difficult decisions and making you feel like shit basically.
Yeah, yeah. And what was the depression and stuff like for you at that time? Like, was it struggling to get out of bed and everything like that? Because I know people experience it in different ways.
Yeah, it was a whole range of things. Struggling to get out of bed was one of the things. Just not enjoying stuff that I used to enjoy before. Um, yeah, really hard to even on the good days, going into work and just facing people. That's something I found really difficult. And sometimes you'd get to work and you'd be happy that you got out of the house,
Yeah.
but then you're like, oh, do I really want to be here? And yeah, just not sleeping. Not sleeping was one of the biggest things. You'd go to bed and you'd be awake all night long thinking about everything under the sun. And when you don't get much sleep, that takes a massive toll on you, eh?
Yeah, it's definitely detrimental. Like, there's more and more research coming out, and there's a book, Why We Sleep, and then there's another one, Sleep Smarter, and I've read into those and the studies and stuff, and like the negative impacts it has on your mental health, your physical health of missing sleep. But then you're also in this cycle where the anxiety and the depression are causing you to not sleep, and it's like, fuck, it's just a clusterfuck. How do I get out of it? And
Yeah, pretty much. It's just like a never-ending cycle, really.
yeah, how for you did you like navigate through that? And I guess, obviously, what kept you getting up to go to work, especially on those days where you didn't want to go out or get out of bed?
Yeah, some days it's just like, okay, I've got to get moving, otherwise I'm going to achieve nothing. So sometimes going to work was actually a really good thing, even though it didn't feel like it. Like looking back now, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of glad that I kept going to work. Um, Otherwise, yeah, who knows where I'd be today? Eh?
Yeah, 100%. It's powerful that you did it, bro. Like, it's huge to hear that, because um I've been through moments like that as well, where it's like the hardest thing, and sort of becomes, people talk about purpose at the moment, and a lot of people feel overwhelmed because, like, I haven't found my purpose. And I'm like, for me, some days when I was in the shithole, I was just like, my purpose today is to get my ass out of bed. Like, that's all I needed. And when I did do that, I was like, win, we got this, and it's just moving forward. But then obviously, some days are easier than others, but it's an individualized and unique experience, because while, I think what you're also doing with the Shaka Project and everything that you're sharing and talking about, um, it's important because we need to gain other people's perspectives and experiences, because we can grab little bits from there and little bits from there and go, fuck, that's how I feel, or that's, what I went through. And maybe I need to just get myself out of bed today and I might start feeling better. But yeah, but moving forward from that, like, what was that sort of first point when you realized you wanted to get some get some help with the depression and anxiety?
Yeah, I just kind of got sick of feeling like shit, basically. And I was like, I've got to do something to change how I am.
Yep.
Yeah, and then one of my mates suggested that I should probably go and see someone, and I did put it off for a while. And then in the end, I was like, okay, nah, something's got to change. So yeah, just went to my doctor, and yeah, she put me on antidepressants. Didn't work. Tried some more. Nah, didn't work. I think we got up to about 5. Um, and then like obviously when you start a new one, you've got to wean off the old one.
Yep.
And then there's like a period where you can't take anything. So that's the really hard part. But yeah, once we found the right one, it was actually through a psychiatrist that we managed to find the right one. And then he pretty much referred me to a psychologist, and I started working with her. And she was awesome. Yeah, I've still got a lot of time for her. And I think also getting into the gym was a big thing, because the entire time I went through school, exercise was not something I enjoyed. Didn't play any sports either. So yeah, in a way, the gym kind of saved me.
Yeah.
I think.
Here I am asking you before offline. I'm like, "You're going to be watching the footy this week?" And you're like, "Yeah, maybe." And I'm like, "All good." But yeah, it's interesting. Like, there's so many incredible tools and resources out there for I guess mental health and mental illnesses, and it's obviously, I believe in grabbing as many as you can and implementing them and finding out which ones work best for you. And obviously, some come with stigmas. Like, some people don't want to go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Some people don't want to be on antidepressants. Some people don't want to do exercise. Right? Everyone's got their things that they enjoy doing and what they want to use. But I think ultimately, there's a accumulation about trying things to find out what's going to work best for you, and fuck the stigmas off. Was there at any point, obviously your mate said to you, you should go see someone, but you put it off? What was the reason for putting it off?
I don't think I wanted to admit that I needed help. That was the main reason. Just pushed it to the side and keep pushing it to the side until couldn't push it to the side any longer.
The old "she'll be right, mate." She'll be
Yeah.
so that keeps around its head. Do you wish you did reach out earlier?
Yeah. Looking back, I wished I had.
Yep.
Um, yeah, because nothing changed until I actually took action and went looking for that help.
Yeah. I think that's a important thing, is like you're the one that actually put your hand up and took action on getting help, because we could have the most supportive friends and family around you, around us, and if we aren't going to talk about it, if we aren't reaching out and putting our hand up, it's really hard for people to read our minds. Like, we expect people to know what's going on in our heads, but meanwhile we're not prepared to talk and let everyone in. Then we're like, fuck, you never asked, you don't understand. It's like, well, help me understand. And once again, it's easier said than done when you're going through the shit, but I'm a big believer in prevention is better than cure. So for while we're in a good state of mind, or you're feeling good, whether it's healthy, you're in a good relationship, it's like that's the time to continue flexing those muscles, whether it's creating a great communication gateway, having a great network around you that if you do, end up in trouble, you feel comfortable and they're going to support you. It's like just building your army while we go. Because at some point in life, as you found out again, even 2019, shit happens. Like, life is just there to test us. And 2019, you were diagnosed with testicular cancer. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What was that like? I can't even fathom what that would be like. Like, I think the older I get, the more I actually start thinking about like death and all these sorts of things. I've been very fortunate from a health perspective, touch wood, touching wood. But how is it for you getting that diagnosis, especially while we still like dealing with depression and anxiety heavily, or where were you at with that?
No, I'd pretty much dealt with all the depression and anxiety stuff, and was in a pretty good place. I was finally happy at work. I was working for Air New Zealand at the time, and had finally moved into a role that I was really
Damn.
happy with. Yeah, but being diagnosed with testicular cancer tipped your whole world upside down. Um, yeah, I think it was especially tough for me because I'm about 4 hours away from any of my family. So pretty much down in Wellington by myself. And yeah, it was really weird. I was home sick from work one day and pretty much rolled out of bed. I think it was about lunchtime and jumped in a shower and had never ever in my life checked myself. So this particular day, I don't know what made me do it, but yeah, just checked myself and found a lump, and I was like, okay, holy shit. Um, I just had a gut feeling that it wasn't good, and yeah, so went off to the doctor, and then she was like, "Oh, nah, I don't think it's anything to worry about." And I was like, "Nah, I want to go and see someone about it." So she pretty much referred me off.
So can I so when you obviously you were feeling sick and you got out of bed at lunch, but was there any pain or anything that sort of gave you that feeling, or was it just purely like, fuck, I'm just gonna check my nuts?
It was pretty much, I'm just gonna check. Like I had no pain, nothing. I was just feeling really tired, which wasn't really uncommon.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it was really weird that I just all of a sudden decided to check this day, and yeah, lucky I did.
Fuck. That's insane, gents. Make sure you check your gonads because you never know. That's what.
Nah, yeah, definitely check, and if you see anything, just go and get it checked out.
And so following on, obviously you really pushed for getting a scan or a MRI, or I'm not sure what it would have been, but from that, and then the results came back. And what happened next?
Yeah, so the doctor referred me for an ultrasound, which was actually managed to get it the same week, so that was pretty good. Um, but I kind of knew things weren't good when I left from having the ultrasound. The sonographer who was doing it, because obviously you've got a screen at the end of the bed, so you can see pretty much what's going on. Um, yeah, she kind of said to me when she was doing it that it didn't look good, but obviously they're not allowed to give too much away.
Oh, how is that? Like, if someone said to me it doesn't look good but didn't give me any more, I'd be fucking freaking out. My brain would just go.
Yeah, it pretty much did for me as well. I was just like, holy shit, this isn't good. And like she kind of zoomed in and you could see that there was like one little lump, and that's what I could feel. But then she kind of zoomed in a bit more, and there are actually two other lumps sitting behind it that I couldn't feel. So once she said there were three, I was like, okay, we're in trouble here. Something bad's going to go down. And I think within a day or so, they were referring me off to a urologist. So I knew that, yeah, because they went pretty quickly with that, that things weren't looking too good.
And so did you say urologist or
Urologist.
Yeah, and so they're the people who gave you the diagnosis and told you everything that was happening.
Yeah, so pretty much, I think I got an appointment. Yeah, it was pretty soon after anyway. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll just go to the hospital to the appointment by myself. And like my parents were like, do you want us to come down? I was like, nah, there's no point in you coming down because I'll probably need you down here later if shit hits the fan. Yeah, so pretty much rocked up to the urologist, and he was an Indian guy, real kind of funny guy. But I pretty much hadn't even had a chance to sit down, and he's like, you know what it is, eh? And I'm like, I had a gut feeling. Yeah, so pretty much, yeah, sat down after that, and he yeah, taught me through the whole process, and was a little bit different to what I thought because I just assumed that, they'd go in and take a biopsy and then we'd go from there. And he's like, oh, no, because if we do that, then we risk spreading it. And I was like, okay. Never thought of that. And he said, the only option is to take the whole testicle out. So, yeah, all went from there, really.
All right. So that whole time of like waiting and stuff, and then having them go, you sort of know what's happening. Is what was like going through your mind at that point? Like, what were you thinking and feeling?
I was pretty stressed out about it all. Yeah, it's pretty much unknown because you don't know what's going to happen next.
Yep.
And then kind of on top of everything, um, and I hadn't even thought about this, it didn't even cross my mind. You've got to think about, like, if you want kids down the track, do you store sperm and things like that? So you're dealing with all this other shit on top of the diagnosis as well.
Did they just like flood you with that? Because you were 29 at this point, 28, 29 or something?
28 now, so it would have been 20, just in 26.
Oh, mate, so you were so young. Like,
Yeah.
this is the thing. I think even for me, I've always thought like cancer strikes when you're older. Like I'm 30 now, and I've never checked myself. I'm going to check myself after this podcast as a visual for you guys listening. But I've never thought about that. But so obviously with the diagnosis, then they just hit you with all this other stuff, like, do you want to save sperm and do all this sort of stuff?
Yeah, they basically just flood you with all this information, and it's like, holy shit, I've actually got to make some decisions pretty quickly because I think we had 2 weeks between seeing the urologist and having the actual operation. So it was like rush, rush, rush to try and get everything organized. And then, so in New Zealand, the government actually funds you to store sperm if you've got cancer. So that was quite good. I don't have to pay for any of that. But yeah, it was up to me whether I wanted to go ahead and do it. And I was like, well, it's kind of like an insurance policy, really. I may not even need to use it, but it's there. Yeah, so I was like, may as well just do it since I don't have to pay for it, and there if I need it.
Yeah, fair play. I think it's a pretty good insurance policy to have. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Was it scary then, like knowing, were they just like, right, the nut's gonna come, or the testicles gonna go out? Like, what were your thoughts around all of that?
I was like, oh yeah, got to do what we got to do. No other way around it. Like, yeah, it's either that or leave it there and risk the cancer spreading. So
Yep.
You're not really left with any option. Like, you got to do it. So
Did you have a good support network around you then, like friends, family, and everything like that?
yeah, I did. Yeah, I had some good mates then, and but it's really interesting how it kind of affects their lives as well. Like, it tips everyone upside down. And I remember bringing one of my best mates and telling him, and yeah, that was probably one of the hardest things I've done as well.
What was going
Yeah.
through your mind before doing that phone call?
What was going through my mind? Everything. It's like, shit, how am I going to say this? And, what's one of my best mates' reactions going to be? And this is right in the middle of a super, super busy time at work as well. Because obviously I was working for Air New Zealand at the time. And this was during the mosque attack in Christchurch.
Yeah, right.
So, and my best mate's a cop. So he was actually down there dealing with that. And I rang him up in the middle of it and was like, shit, this is what's happening. So yeah, it wasn't an easy task, eh?
How did he take it? Like, how was his? Did you have an idea of how he may have responded or reacted?
Um, I was like, oh, he'll probably be all good about it, and he was like, he was real shocked about it. As you know, anyone would be.
Yeah, I can't fathom it, man. Like it's pretty scary. Like for you, obviously, did you ever at any point think that you could die from it, or obviously could that have been a possibility? Obviously, with any cancer, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think I did think about that. I tried to not let it get to me too much. Um, but it does sit in the back of your mind. And I think the hardest part was actually the wait between them removing the testicle and then going to see the oncologist to actually find out what type it was and what the plan was like moving forward. Because that would have been a good probably 4 weeks between it coming out and going to see the oncologist, and that was pretty hard. That was rough, that period.
Is that 4 weeks because they have to do all the tests and everything like that, or?
Yeah, so they send it away and it's got to have all the tests done, and then yeah, they come back with the results, and then you've got to obviously wait until you can get into the oncologist. And yeah,
What'd you do to pass the time for 4 weeks? Like just knowing, like, how was your mental health through all this actually? Like,
surprisingly, my mental health was actually pretty good. I think because I dealt with the whole depression and anxiety thing before, that kind of set me up to deal with this in a weird kind of way. Um, but I was actually back at work because the whole operation, I think I was in the hospital for 4 hours, and then they pretty much boot you out, send you home again.
so they don't even give you a feed and keep you overnight.
Nah, it's
Yeah.
in and out. Um, yeah, which I was quite surprised about too, because you kind of think, oh yeah, they'll keep me in overnight, but nah, they kick you out. And I think for me,
Like, how, like, after all of that, did they put you in a wheelchair or were you walking or what's the deal there? Like,
I think I was in a wheelchair out to the car, and that was it.
and then they literally made you walk.
Pretty much. The pain's not actually too bad because I guess you kind of still a bit drugged up and
Mate,
stuff.
I watch a film and someone gets shot in the dick or, gets booted in the nuts. And I feel it like I'm grabbing myself going, oh man, that would hurt. So like here I am hearing your story and I'm like, if I just had that kind of surgery, there's no way I would be walking. Like I'd be needing a wheelchair and a limousine home just to just to make it there.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, like where they actually put the incision
Yep.
to go in and remove it, it's actually kind of like just below your belly button.
Really?
Yeah.
Mate,
So when I woke up, I was like, why am I so sore so far up? And I couldn't work it out. And then kind of had a look, and I was like, oh, because no one told me any of this.
mate, I'm literally thinking they've got your scrotum and it's just like
Yeah,
like
nah.
you do with cattle when you're castrating a cow. Like
Yeah,
that's
well, that's what I thought too. And I guess no one really thinks to tell you how they do it. And yeah, so they kind of like cut in and then like go down and like fish it back up, and then they obviously cut it off and then tuck it all back in again.
does that is that invasive in the way that it like they cut through abdominal muscles or stuff like that, or is it like how does that? I'm
Yeah, it
fascinated by
is like you're pretty sore.
that. Yeah.
Even now, like I'm 2 and a bit years down the track, I still get pain up at the incision site randomly every now and again.
Were you given like rehab and stuff to do, or
Nah,
just crack on?
pretty much. Yep. They just boot you out, and I wasn't allowed to go to the gym for I think it was like 8 weeks, but I think I pushed it out to about 10 or 12.
Yep.
Because you're not allowed to lift anything heavy or anything like that. So yeah.
And by that point, like, was gym like important to you? Obviously, coming off the back of when you were first diagnosed with depression and anxiety, was exercise something you'd put into your, I guess, your life at that point, coming from a place where you didn't enjoy it?
Yeah, that was really hard not being able to go to the gym. Like all you could do is pretty much go for a walk. Um, yeah, I did struggle with that. And then one of the things I did actually find quite helpful was just going to the sauna at the gym and just, sitting in there for half an hour or so. That was quite good. I think I would have gone absolutely batshit crazy if I hadn't been able to do that.
I don't think, did you, like, as you were talking, I'm starting to think about how much, for me, I was just like, oh, it's, you get diagnosed with cancer, but the whole process of having the surgery and it really shakes up your life in so many other ways. As you mentioned, like it had an impact and an effect on your friends and family, even not being able to exercise and probably normal routine and structure, and then having it, wondering what's coming back with the test results in the back of your mind really would have been a lot to deal with.
Yeah, it was a lot to deal with. Um, but another thing that helped me through, I think, was pretty much going back to work the next week. I didn't go into the office. I was away from the office for a couple of weeks, but I started working from home again. And I think if I hadn't have done that, I would have just gone absolutely crazy.
What were you
And
doing with,
probably,
and oh, sorry, you go.
oh, it's, I think it would have really taken a toll on me if I hadn't been able to do that. And yeah, I was lucky I was working in a kind of a systems analyst role for Air New Zealand at that point. So being able to work from home was an option.
That's cool. Man, I gotta say I love Air New Zealand. Every time I've flown with Air New Zealand, it is by far the best airline I've ever flown with. And the videos, like the safety videos at the start, are always just on point, mate. I remember watching the Rugby World Cup one, and they had the All Blacks doing it, and like with their safety demonstrations, it was so funny. Like just quality entertainment and great service. I love Air New Zealand. Just a sneaky little plug. But are you still with Air New Zealand?
No, no, no. I left pretty much the start of COVID last year.
Yeah.
So obviously when COVID came along, that rocked the travel industry. And I think we had about 3 people from my team that got made redundant. So we all got dragged through the whole redundancy process as well. And it was interesting how we were treated by the airline. Um, wasn't a fun time.
All the good stuff I just said about them, is that all bullshit, is it? I'm kidding.
Some of it's true, but I guess they had to do what they had to do in terms of culling their staff numbers.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the calls we were on, just kind of left you feeling like, do I really want to work for this organization? So I was lucky. I did actually keep my job. But I decided that job security was probably more important. And I was like, nah, I've got to get out of here. So I was with the airline for nearly 9 years.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Do you have like a long service thing over in New Zealand? I think in Australia, it's every 10 years you accrue like 3 months worth of long service, which is essentially like you get paid for 3 months work and you can take it off and travel Australia or do stuff like that.
yeah, they did have a long service thing. I think it was 10 years.
Yep.
So I kind of just missed out on that. But
You and
that's what it is.
not worth it.
Nah, the thing I do miss probably is the staff travel, because obviously I resigned, so lost all my staff travel benefits.
Yeah, some of the pricing I've seen people with staff travel benefits, I'm like, that is ridiculously insane. Please hook me up as a friend.
Yeah, we used to get, I think it was 50% off domestic, and I think it was 25% off
That's
New
insane.
Zealand operated international.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty good. I made use of it while I was there, that's for sure.
So what did you jump into next? Like what was, are you still in that same industry or where are you now?
Yes and no. uh, Jumped out of the travel industry and into kind of the finance industry. which was a big change. I'm still in kind of like tech support, like what I was doing for Air New Zealand. But yeah, this time in finance, which is big change, big learning curve.
Is it enjoyable or?
Yeah, no, it is. So, yeah, no, I work for a company that makes its own anti-money laundering software. So all our clients are lawyers and accountants. And in New Zealand, we've had a whole lot of like new trust acts come in,
Yep.
and anti-money laundering laws. So basically, these lawyers and accountants have to prove that their clients are who they say they are. So our software basically does checks on them, and they can record evidence in our system so that when their auditors come along, they're compliant.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so it was interesting. But I'm in the customer support team, so obviously I've been there just over a year, and it was a whole new product to learn. That was, yeah, that was pretty hard.
Did they give you a good onboarding or did they throw you in the deep end straight away?
No, they did give me a really good onboarding. Like even now, I'm still learning stuff. But yeah, the customer support team have to know the product inside out because we do all the troubleshooting. So when clients ring up, we've got to know how the system works. And
Have you ever been stumped? Have there been a few times where you're like, oh, no idea?
yep, yep, you kind of just bluff your way through it, and like, I bring you back.
Yeah. Get back to it easy. But going back, we sort of jumped the getting your results back. Like what did it come back with and what was the process after that?
Yeah, so once I got to go and see the oncologist, I actually got mum to come down for that appointment. I thought, yeah, it's probably a good idea to have someone else so she can ask questions too. Yeah, so basically met with the oncologist, and he had a new student registrar with him, which they always seem to do. So she was the lucky one that actually got to deliver the results to me, rather than the oncologist. Yeah, and they were like, okay, you've got stage 1A cancer, and they're like, that's pretty good. Like we've picked it up really early, and I was like, phew, that's pretty good. And then yeah, it seems to vary between countries, but in New Zealand with stage 1A, so it kind of it sits in the middle between stage 1 and 2. Um, they don't recommend that you go and have chemo. They just put you on a surveillance program.
So what is the surveillance program? Like, is that just
Yeah, so that was, I think, start off with I was going in to the hospital every second month to have checks with the oncologist. Every month I was doing blood tests, and I think every 3 months was a chest X-ray and CT scan. The reason for the chest X-ray is that is the next place it goes, which is weird. So yeah, that's why they do that. Yeah, so I was, very lucky that I escaped having to have chemo.
and what about like now where are you like still powering through it all? Like do you go through remission from that? Is that where you're at or are you just in the clear at the moment, just having like 6 monthly checkups or?
Yeah, so pretty much in the clear. They kind of don't give you the final clearance until you reach the 5-year mark.
So 5 years is the
5 years.
yeah, right.
But I think from memory, the first year is the most riskiest. So that's when it's most likely to come back.
Yep.
Yes, I think now I'm on 4 monthly visits to the oncologist, and chest and CT scans every 6 months. I think that's just about to change again, kind of every year as you go through. The plan changes and they start pushing things out further and further.
Did your perspective on life change after the diagnosis and the process of it all?
Yeah, it did, eh?
I thought for a moment that you might have been like, nah. I was like, wow.
I think, yeah, it does. You're like, holy shit, like go and live life a bit more and don't worry about so much. Um, but I was probably still pretty comfortable. Um, yeah, until then, when COVID came along, I was like, okay, COVID's come along. I've been through cancer. I've got to get out of New Zealand. I've got to go and do something different.
Was there anything that you were sort of telling yourself during that period that you wanted to change or you wanted to implement into your life that you haven't yet?
Um, nah, I don't think so, eh?
Snailed it.
Yeah.
Man, I think it's so for me, like hearing your story and, chatting with people from all walks of life, like it just continually reminds me that, we are here for a short time and it's, things could change the click of a fingers. So it's really important to make sure that we are consciously aware around how we're spending our time and who we're spending it with, like making sure we're spending it around the people that give us value. And like you said, the friends that you were hanging around with back in when you were diagnosed with Crohn's weren't probably the best people to be spending time with, but so many of us, or so many people, find themselves staying in friendships or in mateships purely because it's convenient. And it's like you've been mates since you were 4 years old. So it's like, I can't end that. Need to have the memories and have the laughs. But it's like, well, if it's not serving you and if it's not bringing you fulfillment, why the fuck are we still doing it? But I know your time's valuable and we'll let you shoot off shortly. Not just yet, but surely. But how do you get involved with the Shaka Project and what's, I'd love to hear more about what you're doing there.
Um, yeah, that was just through Instagram actually. It wasn't that long ago. It would have only been probably about 3 or 4 months ago.
Yep.
Um, I don't know how I came across them on Instagram, whether someone shared something or they were tagged in something. Anyway, I was like, this looks interesting. Go on and have a look. Just kind of started following, and then just got chatting with Sean, one of the guys behind it, and then kind of got to know a couple of others, and yeah, just went from there. And then they kind of put out a message if anyone was kind of interested in being one of their ambassadors to fill in the application form and send it back. So I did. Yeah, and then I basically just share all their stuff and yeah, went from there.
Yeah, awesome. It's good. Something great to be a part of, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But for yourself moving forward, like what are you sort of working towards over, seeing out 2021 or just even the years to come? Like, is there any goals or things you've got set, your sight set on?
Yeah, definitely. I think the next goal will be applying for police. I've always wanted to do it. I used to manage all their travel for when I was working for New Zealand before I moved into my systems analyst role. Yeah, this will be the third application. So
Third time lucky.
third time lucky. Yeah, first time got tripped up by the antidepressants because they had this stupid policy which they've now got rid of. Second time, testicular cancer wiped me out. So yeah, third time lucky. That's one of my big goals, is to get into police. And yeah, I've obviously got a lot of mates in police and spend a lot of time talking to them. And I think just being able to help people that way as well.
Yep.
Yeah, obviously in New Zealand, I don't know about what it's like over in Aussie. Our police attend a lot of the mental health calls.
Yep.
That makes up a huge percentage of what they go to. So I guess I've got a lot of experience in that area, so can hopefully help some people, talk them around.
100%. Well, I look forward to seeing you or hearing about your progression, that's for sure. But finally, what's your definition of being a man? It's always cool to hear everyone's individual and unique perspectives on that.
This is actually a tricky one, eh? I think, yeah, the definition of being a man is kind of someone who knows what they want and is kind of like, they'll keep working at it to kind of achieve their goals, and rather than just like giving up easily.
100%.
Yeah.
I like it, man. Well, thanks for sharing. But mate, if anyone wants to reach out to you, I guess on social platforms and stuff, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Facebook. Facebook, I think it's under Scotty Martin, and Instagram is also I think Scotty_Martin.
Yeah,
You'll see my picture.
sweet as, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on today. And for anyone who wants to reach out and ask Scotty some more questions, I'll have his social profiles in the show link, so you can just click on that and get chatting, which would be awesome. But mate, good luck with everything in the future, and I look forward to continue following your progress and your journey, and reaching out to the cops.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. Thanks for having me on, Lockie. It's been great.